one thing that we have as one of the bold laws here at KW is that what you focus on expands. And we've talked about wealth building, personal finance, roughly every 2 to 3 months here at Westfield. And it's because it's important for us as a brokerage to really help you move your financial status forward, to help you to really work towards financial freedom. Because ultimately, money's not the goal, but freedom is. And so we want to help you to fast track your wealth building process. And so today we've actually got an awesome guest. Hunter, if you want to go to the next slide, I'm going to introduce Juston. Juston is actually a KW agent at our Salt Lake office. And so he was kind enough to come down today and share a little bit of his background and his backstory with wealth building, but also how he helps clients that are in that same boat who are focused on investing. So go ahead and give Juston a hand.
Who knew they were coming to hear somebody else speak at your team meeting today, or who's surprised? Who's surprised? I'm surprised too. Okay, so not many of you know anything about me. Is that correct? All right, so you guys have low expectations. This is perfect. Okay, so I'm going to start by telling you this. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a dumb realtor. I have some experience, about 20 years of experience investing. And so some of the things I'm going to tell you, you're going to agree with, and some things might make you uncomfortable. And I would just say, don't take a bunch of copious notes. Just think about 1, 2, or 3 things that you want to implement in your life. Okay? Because this is just real world. What he said is correct, directly true. What you focus on will expand, okay? So everything that we do kind of starts with the mindset. And so I teach the wealth building in our office, and we do it, I think it's is this the 3rd or 4th week of the month? I don't know. It's this Thursday. If you're in Salt Lake, you're always welcome to show up at noon. You can bring a bag lunch, and we have some pretty awesome content. So, okay. Anybody know who Matthew McConaughey is? He gives a lot of advice. So just think of this raspy dude giving this six things that are really important. So number 6, you will not probably understand until you're about 40 years of age. Anybody over 40? See if you get this one. Number 1, life is 100% better when nobody knows anything about you. Now, there are some people that their focus is to be the most famous agent in Utah, right? They want to be on the Instagram reels. They want to do that. I'm not going to knock that. I'm just saying my perspective is I'd rather fly under the radar. Number 2, never take advice from somebody that isn't where you want to be in life. So, and I'll tell you more about my story, but at the end of the day, I really believe in number 2. I'm not asking somebody's advice on that subject unless I actually want to trade spots with them. Anybody disagree with that? By the way, I'm totally open. So anybody wants to raise their hand, anybody wants to voice something, I welcome participation, okay? Number 3, everyone will show you who they are, just give them time, right? You're going to have people that try to screw you. They're going to rake you over the coals. They're going to take advantage of you. That's just life, okay? So just give them time. They'll figure it out. Number 4, create your own opportunities. They will not come to you, right? The market's changed. You're figuring out if you really want this, right? Is that why you're here? Figure out what you're going to do. Number 5, the secret to happiness is freedom. Secret to freedom is courage. You must take action if you want freedom. Brief story. This last week, we're in the ALC meeting, and the team leader says, hey, let's do a competition. And then we started to have a real conversation, right? Like, we're not really motivated for competitions. We're motivated for our bottom line, right? Our paycheck, our net profit, our investments, our net worth, right? And so it all comes down to like freedom. Like, what do you value? Is it how you spend your time? Is it where you spend your time? Is it where you spend your money? So number 6 is you're always going to have conflict in your life. It doesn't matter what phase you're in, whether you're single, whether you're married, there's always going to be conflict, right? Whether you have money or you don't have money. And the sooner you just get over that and persevere through those conflicts, the more beautiful life's going to be for you. So just going to have to shift your perspective. Anybody like this? You can find it on, I don't know, your favorite social media channel. Okay. All right. Since we crossed into Utah County, we have to bring up some church, right? So what does a prayer for wisdom look like? Carl, if you were going to pray for wisdom, how would it go? I'm serious. Anybody want to say? This is a taboo topic here?
And I'm not just out there going, Russ, wisdom upon me. I am
Okay.
more, I have this situation, I'm trying to learn what I want better at.
What's your name? Tucker, B. Anybody agree with Tucker? Has anybody ever prayed for wisdom? Maybe I'm the answer to your prayer today. I don't know, you know? So Confucius says there's three ways, right? There's reflection, there's imitation, there's experience. What's the easiest way? It's probably to imitate, right? Rip off and duplicate. Why am I here probably talking to you, not getting paid, doing something else? Because I like reflection. This requires me to reflect upon things I'm doing and how I can get better. What's the hardest? It's experience, right? Who's ever had the thought that you did more when you were a little naive? Right? Like, I took that risk and I probably shouldn't have, but it worked out. Has anybody had that experience? I certainly have. Experience can be the most bitter thing, but it can also be the sweetest because you learn the most. Okay? So, like I said, we talk about mindset. What is the price of inaction? Does anybody know? Let's table that for a quick second. Here's what I think there are three costs in life we never know the answer to. Anybody want to make a bet what they are? Shout it out. Opportunity cost. You never know what the cost is, right? Because you don't know what you're saying yes to. If you say yes to something else, you might have to say no to the real opportunity. So you never know exactly how much the value is of the opportunity cost. The second one is our health cost. We never know exactly how expensive healthcare is going to be because we don't know how long we're going to live, right? So the third one is we don't know how long it is. We don't know how much money we're going to need because we don't know how long we're going to live. Is this all true? These are the three costs I believe in life we'll never find the answer to, okay? And so the reality is we just have to take massive, imperfect action. So, I had this conversation yesterday with a guy I met about 3 years ago. He was driving a $2,500 car. It was very nice. I don't know what it was. It was blue. Not really a car guy. It was expensive and it was fast, right? And I said, you must have an incredible house. And he's like, I rent. And I was like, whoa, let's reframe the conversation because that's actually a house payment you're driving around. He's a very smart person. So we chat again yesterday and he still wants to push this off another year. He's building an app and he's talking about, he's got to get married first. The timing's never right, is it? You just have to make massive, imperfect action. You'll learn along the way and you'll make that which is bitter to become sweet through experience. Okay, so what are some things of inaction, things that we typically do? So indecision, right? What is indecision? You're like weighing two things, right? Like me and my wife, we're weighing what kind of car she's going to buy yet. We don't really know. We can't really come to an agreement. So what do? We're doing nothing right now, right? That's a decision, whether it's reality or not. Complacency, right? Who's had a good year? Who's saying, hey, I'm just going to chill on the sidelines and wait for rates to get better? You're being complacent, right? In the success you've had in the past. Negligence, right? That's probably a really naughty word right now because you as agents, we have this fiduciary responsibility. Can you be negligent to your duty to prepare for retirement or to become financially free? Okay. I've already said there's times when we do nothing, right? And sometimes it is warranted, but it should be done with a plan. Sometimes we're just resistant to change, right? This NAR settlement, buyer brokers going down. We fear change, right? Like, do we really fear change or do we have to get comfortable with the change that's going to happen, whether we're in agreement or not? Okay. Overthinking. I talked about the gentleman that's overthinking his whole situation. He's smart enough. He's able to buy right now. He's going to wait a year. And as the mortgage guy said, right? You cannot outsave the market. Okay, procrastination. I won this award, I've waited to the last minute to do a lot of things in life. And the more I plan ahead, the better I get at my inaction. So I guess the window of opportunity. Does anybody know who Warren Buffett is? He's famous for saying, if he was his older sibling or his younger sibling, chances are great you would never know who he is, and he would not amass the wealth he's had. Why? Because he walked through certain doors based on people he had at his age, in his grade, in his classes, college, or whatever else. So you're going to experience a window's opportunity, and you have to decide if and when you're going to walk through it, right? Or uncertainty. Who has a hard time with this? Dude, the more you learn about yourself, you'll decide what is good for you. So a couple of years ago, my wife and I went to Europe. Well, maybe it was like 5 years ago. We realized that I was cool with uncertainty. How? We knew we were flying into the Netherlands. We knew we were flying out of France 2 weeks later with no plans in between. Who would freaking choke themselves? Okay, so the day she flew in, I was already there, right? And I booked our hotel for the next 4 days, right? And then we just kind of moved to 3 other cities and we had a great time. That's when I fully learned I was good with uncertainty. If you're not cool with that, that's fine. But the more you learn about yourself, then you can understand I'm cool with the market changing because I know I have to reinvent myself twice a year anyway. Okay? And ambiguity. Some of this stuff's going to be a little vague to you. You're going to be like, what the hell is he even talking about? And that's okay too, right? Just figure out what's the best thing for you today. So who wants to share? What's your favorite form of inaction that you embrace? Come on, you guys know. Be vulnerable for a sec. What is it? You're overthinking stuff. So you know it. You already think it's a good idea, but you're still scared. Okay, what about anybody else? Procrastination. You're waiting to the last moment, and maybe that opportunity leaves because you waited too long and you kind of sigh of relief and kind of like, I'm glad it kind of went away, but inside you're kind of scared. Tucker? So the reality is the more you recognize, you can understand how to get better at. Okay? What is the cost to invest? Does anybody share this? What do you guys think that the actual cost is? I'll give you an example. So I have a client, a couple of years ago, he bought his first duplex. Him and his wife make good money, like 300 and something grand a year. They didn't have the down payment. Okay, so they pulled the money from their HELOC for the down payment on this duplex in Roy. They live in Salt Lake. So I tell him what to do, how to do it, where to do it, line him up with the contractor and do the things he needs to do. 6 months later, he's still not done because he decided to do it his way. So what was his cost? He told me how many trips he drove up there. It was insane. He was going up there twice a week, maybe. 6 months of no rent. It costs him more to do it if he just hired a contractor. So at the end of the day, you have to decide, what do you have more of? Do you have more time? Do you have more money? Or do you have the energy? It doesn't matter what you're going to relate to. It's just, what do you have? My 10-year-old daughter that's trying to get good at soccer, she's got the time and the energy, right? We talk about the things she can do. I've got the money to help her get a little bit better in training. Okay, so you can work together with people to help you get the proper cost to invest. So a year later, the same client comes back and he's like, dude, I can't calculate the ROI. And I'm like, here's what I would do. Do not calculate your down payment as the interest on that HELOC. That's your price of admission, right? What you saved or your down payment, your cash, that's just your cost to get, that's your ticket to ride. Okay, so once he stopped counting that and just put that as his personal sacrifice, then he started to see the return on investment. Is this helpful? Anybody have any comments? Seriously, I'm open to totally breaking this up. By the way, and I usually start this way, but I didn't. Does anybody have something specific you want me to cover today? Clay, anything? I feel good. I feel good. Hey, I will go over that. Look, I'll be, I'm a little shy, but I'll try to be a little transparent about some stuff. Okay. You guys have, what's up?
Isn't that your initial investment?
Yeah, you're correct, right? It's what your return on investment, but it doesn't really count towards your cash flow, right? There's a certain sacrifice. You're never going to account for every single dollar, right? Like if I could count my very first property I bought in 2004 and actually matriculated that all the way out to different deals, it would be almost impossible to calculate. Plus, you can't totally count the equity you get through appreciation or the taxable benefit from the depreciation either. And so what I'm saying is there's just a price you're going to have to pay to sacrifice, whether you save up on it to put as your down payment so you have a lower payment, do you have a better rate, you have better cash flow, or whatever. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I'm an investor. I want to make everything an investment, right? Or write it all off, right? So when you buy life insurance, is that an investment? It's not. It's insurance, right? You can trick your mind and tell yourself it's insurance or it's an investment, but it's not. It's insurance. Okay. Has anybody seen the chart? This is, I think Johnny shared this, but the reality is this: whether you want to own or you want to rent and invest the difference, how long is it really going to take for you to get to par, right? To break even. And the reality is, if you see that in year 3, that's where if you owned, you're going to lose for 3 years versus the person that just rent and invested the difference. And then it starts to take off. That's why we see that renters typically have a much lower net worth valuation than a real estate owner. Okay. So this is just my friend with the $2,500 car, right? He's just pushing it off another year. You're going to have to sacrifice your 3 years till you get there. Does anybody here not own their own house? A couple people do, right? This is a slide that should be very motivating for you and for your first time home buyers to help them get off the fence. Massive imperfect action. Like you may be too experienced. You may be overthinking it. You may have to shift back to beginner mode. And what does that mean? It just means I never fail. I either win or I learn. Okay. And so just like my daughter, she's got to get uncomfortable before she gets comfortable, right? I walked in here not knowing very many people, right? We're probably going to become friends and I'll see you guys around. I may not remember your name, but I've got a head injury and I'm going to get better, right? So we're just going to have to embrace the scared and recognize what we're going to do to get better. Okay. Anybody know who this guy is? Colin Powell. Indecision has cost Americans, American business, and the American government billions more than a wrong decision. I think oftentimes, tell me if I'm right, you're more afraid of making the wrong decision than making the right decision. Who can relate to that? So I'll give you an example. We moved my mom to a townhome. She's retired now, and she's used to be a pretty sharp lady. She became the HOA president. They had a rain gutter issue, downspout issue for all these townhomes. So it was going to cost like 40-something grand to do it. A lot for an HOA to just pony up, right? So what did they do? They went to their inaction. They said, we don't know what to do, so we'll just table it for a year. They had to get it done. So the next year, what happened? Prices went up 10 grand. What did it cost them to wait? I'm going to ask you, what is it going to cost you to wait? How long is it going to take you before you put the plan in place, before you move the needle forward to buy that next investment or your first investment or your primary residence? Okay. And then you just have to ask yourself the question, what happens if I say no? You're going to keep riding the plane you're on. What happens if you say yes? What is the possibility? Okay. So this is just like there's a recipe for success. This is the recipe to stay where you're at. If you want to be poor, this is how you do it. Start tomorrow, fail once, quit forever. Blame your circumstances, wait for a perfect condition, stay busy, accomplish nothing, talk more, do less. This is the recipe. If you don't want to do it, if you want to live in fear and stay where you're at, this is the way you do it. Anybody disagree? Is this too harsh? I mean, it's harsh. The reality, I mean, what do they say? The wicked taketh the truth to be hard, for it cutteth them to the very center, right? I'm not even a very spiritual person. Some things come out of me here. So on your tombstone, how do you want it to be? Is this the life you're living today? And what I would say for me, I'm not so worried about failure. I'm worried more about me not living up to my potential. Okay. This is an appreciation chart. You guys see this stuff? Can anybody give me some high level, just looking at what do you see here? Anybody? More up than down. How many times has it crossed the zero line? Very few, right? So this is appreciation. So think about this. I've lived through the worst real estate depression that we've ever seen, right? Below that line since the 54. So if I lived and I got through that, can I not get through whatever's coming down the pipeline in the future? Was anybody in business during the last crash? Do you use that as fear, motivation, or as perspective? Seriously, what do you think? Perspective, right? It makes you smarter. Okay. This is a home price appreciation graph. Okay. You've got the line there at that pink line states that over the last 20 years, appreciation's been 6.53%. So based on this chart, what if I told you it's pretty clear from looking at this chart that the house you live in today will double in value in the next 11 to 18 years? How can I tell that by looking at this chart? Anybody want to take a stab? Okay. Anybody know the rule of 72? Anybody explain that to me? Dean? Well, let me clarify that just a little bit. So you take 72 and you divide it by a rate you're getting. Don't worry about the point. And that'll tell you how long it takes your investment to double. So if you take 72, you divide it by, who's got a calculator? Just pull out your phone. Take 72 and divide it by 6.53. And what does that tell you? What is it? So in 11 years, your house theoretically should double in value if this graph is correct and that we've achieved this average over the last 20 years. Now, who actually knows what the appreciation rate is that we kind of expect? I think it's closer to 4%. So if you take 72 and divide it by 4, what do you get? 18, right? So I thereby know between 11 and 18 years, my real estate's going to double in value. Does this make sense? So we're going to talk about this a little bit more as we go, because these are skills that are going to help you become more confident and comfortable in investing. Yeah. It's just I don't know, smarter people than me have created that. And I don't know, it's just a general rule that you can look it up. I mean, your financial planners, people smart are going to use that. I don't know the history behind it. I just know it works. And go and do it. You should put this in practice. Go see when your parents bought their house and when they sold it and how long it took. And I've done this over and over and over again. And it's typically between that 10 and 20 year period, you're going to see the real estate double in value. Here's a great stat. I think the media preaches a lot of craziness. If we listen to it too much, it can harm us because the media is typically a little bit negative. But this takes over the appreciation for each decade since the 40s. And people think real estate is expensive, and it is. But if you look at it, it went up far more prior to the 70s, prior to the 80s. I mean, 150%, 178%. We've had some moderate appreciation. At times it's good, right? But this takes no bearing just when the decade ends. So in the 2010s, we only had 48% appreciation, but we now know 2010 was the very bottom trough of the market, and there was still 48% appreciation. So whatever the number you're looking at, whatever the fear you have, there's opportunities for you to look the other way and see the positives in it. Here's U.S. inventory, right? We look at this every quarter that Johnny does it. This is why I feel totally comfortable in buying real estate, maintaining more portfolio and buying more, is because you've got this huge trough of this is the demand and this is the undersupply. So I think you have the choice and you have the opportunity, if you're going to have kids or posterity, or if you want that sort of thing, you might have to make the money to help them put a down payment on their house, right? And what's the other side of the coin? There's people in LA, there's people in New York and Manhattan that are career renters, right? And they make very good income. They just cannot afford to do it. So just like Warren Buffett says, like, if he had some money, what would he go do? Right? He'd buy some single family homes, put on a 30-year fixed mortgage, right? Those are really awesome opportunities. And I know rates are still in the 7%. Can you still make a deal pencil? Can you? Dude, you can. You can. Yeah.
Definitely feels like 40 to 50%. Like you have to put a huge chunk down now to make it pencil. Unless you're finding the bill, tell us the secret.
Well, has anybody ever been creative? Am I the only one? I mean, I'll tell you, go ahead. There you go. So I think sometimes we get caught in our own rhetoric, right? Like we only know how to put down 25% down on an investment property. I didn't come from anything. Like seriously, like I grew up, dude, I fully remember Thanksgiving Day coming and somebody from the neighbor bringing over a turkey and a bag of potatoes and a bag of oranges. And you know what I mean? Like we just didn't have stuff. You know, I liked sports and that was my whole Christmas, was getting some basketball shoes, you know, like I just didn't come from anything. I had a job when I was 15. I had to pay for my own school fees, yearbooks, you know what I mean? Clothes. Like, dude, those are palpable lessons that taught me a lot of things, right? So what I would tell you is you don't need a trust fund. You don't need a rich parent to help you. You just need some drive and some creativity. And just like we talked about Warren Buffett, the window of opportunity, when I got in the business in 2004, luckily there were some stated income loans. That was one of those things for me. I walked through that window and was able to get a fair number of properties with not being able to fully, you know, complete my taxes. And so it gave me a leg up that I may not have had if I hadn't started investing until 2012. Did I continue to invest in 2012? For sure. And what have I done creatively? What I've typically done, which has worked out well for me, I didn't have a lot of cash. I focused on buying piece of crap houses that couldn't get financing, and I bought them with hard money and paid exorbitant interest rates. And I knew the value of what they were going to be in after repair value. And I used some scrape borrowed and not stole, but borrowed money, right, to fix them up. And in the beginning, I was doing the fix ups. And then I created value and I refinanced. And I read underwriting guidebooks and learned how to run DU and talk to accounting reps, right, to help me formulate things. And then I could get all my money back. And then I had investment property that cash flowed. And I did that over and over and over again until I could have the money to put 25% down on investment property. So there are opportunities and ways, and just because the market's up or interest rates are high, there's still people that need to move stuff. I mean, am I the only one on wholesale seller lists? They're finding motivated people that need to sell. You can too. I'm going to cruise through some of these. Here's one, like Johnny puts together stats. I have perspective, so I question it. You know, I've got a fourplex in Salt Lake County, and he's saying that it takes $687 a month per unit in operating expense. And I'm thinking if I times that by 4, that's like $2,800 a month. That doesn't jive for me, right? That doesn't check out with my investments. So what I'm telling you is you should question everything. You should run the numbers and see if that's legit. I don't think that is, but that gives me perspective, right? Because I have a different track record. So let me shift gears here for a second. Why do you want to be wealthy? Is it fame and fortune, or is it service and impact? Anybody want to share? Adam, why do you want to be wealthy? Yeah. Is it, who wants fame? Dude, don't be shy. Who wants fortune? Who wants it for service? Who wants it for impact? Who's not sure? I feel like we should want it for service and impact, but I don't think we all do. Would you like to adopt a kid? That's wonderful. Seriously. Like, I want those same types of opportunities. That's why I've worked hard, right? I don't want to give my kids everything. Like, I want them to still suffer. I still want them to be challenged and work hard, but I can't just give them everything, right? Because I recognize that was a sweet thing that my parents bestowed upon me. Okay. So I don't care what you want, but I think it's more clear if you decide what you really want. So maybe why I'm here is because I'm just trying to be impactful, right? I don't think I'm service oriented enough. So this is like my church, my ability to give back a little bit to you. Okay. So you guys know a little bit about the law of the lid. Let me talk about fleas. Anybody ever had fleas? Carl. So not Flea the guitarist, an actual flea. What's cool about a flea is it can actually jump up to 150 times its height. And the reality is it can jump up to 2 feet. So it could probably almost jump onto this table. So if I put it in a glass box and I put a lid at it at 12 inches, after only 3 hours, that flea will only, and I take the lid off, that flea will only be able to jump 12 inches. Conversely, this is only 3 hours. If that flea has a baby, its kids, its offspring will only be able to jump 12 inches to where that lid was placed. Is that not fascinating? So think about this. I'm a little bit of an anomaly, right? My parents had fears, they had whatever they had, right? They had this glass ceiling and I've popped through that. Like I decided this is not the life for me. This is not the example. This is not what I want, right? So I went after different things. Who has a glass ceiling that they feel like they've been put on? Either by parent, by caste system, by traditions, by whatever. Does anybody have anything like that? Or am I just the only one? So you get to decide. That's the beautiful part of this world is you've got your choice and you decide if you're here to better yourself and what you're going to do after you get out of here. So if something comes up that you think you want to do, just write that down. Sometimes I sit in trainings or whatever, and I'm not even like writing notes for them. I'm like, an idea is sparked in me, and this is what I want to do, and I write that down, or what I should do, or a different way I want to market, or I'm thinking about a deal I'm trying to accomplish. So think about it that way. And, I told you a little bit about my story, but another question for you, are you running towards wealth, or are you running away from poverty? Who thinks they're running towards prosperity? Who thinks they're more scared and they're running away from not having what they're comfortable with? To be honest, I'm probably the second. I've run away more than I'm afraid of getting wealthy, right? So it's just perspective, just to think about those things. And the reality is, you know, like, what was your name, ma'am? Susie. Susie says, there's no deals out there, right? How do you do them? Is Susie right? She can be. Could she possibly need an attitude shift? Right? Yeah.
You said earlier that there are like three things. So you like time, your money, or energy. And I feel like, Susie, you're probably at a point where you can focus your money at it. So like that's kind of what I was thinking when she said that. I was like, she could afford to like throw money at it rather than her time and energy.
I do, I sell more houses so that I can just buy more, and so I put more energy at it, and that's all I do is I just keep selling houses so I can buy more, but I just feel like the last 2 years, I had to put even more down when I find something, but I should try to find
You-
seller finance
Well,
deals,
Well, do you want to put more energy into it? Like that's the other.
whatever it takes.
We focus exactly what we want to do, right? If you're too busy running your business, can you work on your business? If you're just worried about getting the check, are you actually working on your wealth that's going to pay you off in 10 years, right? So that's just the difference. I'm not too concerned about the top-down report. I'm not personally too concerned about how much money I make just from commissions because I have other streams of income, right? What I'm concerned about is what's my cash flow, what's my net nut, and what's my net worth growing to be, right? And maybe another one I'm looking at is my mortgage debt. I actually like that figure. So here's the question is you tell me what the answer is. You are the most qualified and capable to help who? Anybody? Take a guess. Cameron, come on. Me, okay? What? Anybody else? You are the most qualified and capable to help. Okay, Tucker B. Clients. Okay, what else? Ooh, I like that. Shoni? Okay, this is my answer. You are the most qualified and capable to help the person you used to be. So what am I good at? I'm good at helping somebody become an investor or go to 1 or 2 properties or go to 10 units, right? Or to create a $10 million net worth. That's what I'm good at because that's where I used to be. So think about it from that perspective. Let me tell you about 2 uncles. I only have 1 uncle. My mom is an only child and I have 1 uncle, right? But Uncle Pete is on my wife's side. So Uncle Walt retired in his low 60s, worked at Boeing, lives in Seattle, built a great house. It's just kind of always had stuff, right? And he's helped his kids and his grandkids, and he's just had it. So I texted him last month, and I'm like, "Hey, my coffee maker broke. Like, what do you recommend?" And I was like, "Dude, that's like $3,000. Are you serious?" I was like, and he's like, "Yeah, it's great, blah, blah." And I was like, "Where are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm in Palm Desert. We've been out here for 8 weeks." And I was like, so he's got the life, right? The life he wants to live. Uncle Pete, on the other hand, calls me about every other week. He lives in Arizona. He's 64. He's telling me he wants to buy a second home in Utah. And I'm like, I ask a lot of questions and I'm like, Pete, you don't probably have the assets or the time to be able to do that. You should probably be buying an income property. And he's fighting me about it. And I'm like, look, you're right. Susie, you're right. Like, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. It's whatever you think is right for you. But who do you want to be? Do you want to be 64, worried that you're not going to have enough? Or do you want to be 74 and totally comfortable and buy that $3,000 toy, right? That's the only question I have. And I really believe that you're overspending if you cannot invest the first 20% you get every month from your sales. In 2010, when I got married, I already had, a bunch of investment properties. And by the way, here's another nugget, get a prenup. But we're still happily married. How about that? But I will say this. In 2010, we lived exclusively on my wife's salary. and invested 100% what I made. So I think 20% is a very conservative figure to invest. And if you can't do that, put yourself in a position, either trim down your budget, but start to invest the first 20%, not the last 20%. Does that make sense? Is this good? How much time do we have, Shoni? Okay, anybody read Atomic Habits? I'm gonna tell you a cool story just because I love to get dressed up in spandex and shave my legs and ride a bike. David Brailsford was hired by British Cycling to kind of figure their stuff out. So they had sucked so bad. Does anybody ride bikes in here? So bike manufacturers like Trek, Specialized, Cannondale, whatever you like, British Cycling was so bad they didn't want the team to even ride their bikes. They sucked so bad. So they hired David Brailsford to figure it out. And his philosophy, just like Atomic Habits, was let's get better, 1% better every day, just 1%. So what did they do? They got in a wind tunnel. They wore funny hats. They changed their positioning on the bike, right? They wore different materials that would make them more aerodynamic. They'd put little heaters on their legs when it was cold to keep their muscles warm so they could perform at a higher level. They hired a surgeon to come in and instruct them how to wash their hands, get in their cuticles and their hands and make sure no germs or bad stuff is going to be transferred. They painted the inside of their trucks white so no specks of dust or dirt could get in their drivetrains, right? Like you see this, like they had a truckload of washers. Each cyclist had their own washer, right? So that any of their germs wouldn't happen. They just tried all these different things. And what happened? Anybody know what the Tour de France is? It's like the best cycling event ever. It's the most hardest, grueling, most commercialized event. It's about 2,500 miles based on 21 days of just hard riding. It's hard to even complete it, let alone try to win it. So in a 10-year span, they won it 5 times. They won all these world championships and their results paid out. Now you might say, well, the Tour de France is whatever it is, right? These are funny people that ride bikes and you get irritated and honk when you're driving by them. The reality is a French rider has not won it since 1985. That's how hard this race is and how amazing it is. And he just said, hey, we're going to try some things and we'll try it for long enough until we get enough results, we'll find an improvement. And that's all your job is to do some marginal things a little bit better. Make that one extra call, right? Decide you're going to do your net worth statement every month, right? It's have that conversation with your wife to set up your trust or your plan or decide what your number is you need to get to, right? Jim Rohn says success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day while failure is simply a few errors in judgment repeated every day. So we talked about the rule of 72, right? You guys got that down? Anybody know about the 4% or the inverse 25x? Anybody know how much they spend every month? Anybody want to shout it out? How about annually? Anybody spend? Last time I did this, somebody said they spent $2,000 a month. I was like, wow, that's incredibly small. Anybody spend like 100 grand a year or more? Who's more? Probably everybody, right? Okay, so if you wanted to retire with $100,000 you could spend every month, how would you do it? You take 100,000 times it by 25. That's going to tell you what? That's the net worth number you need to actually sustain and burn off 4% annually. So you would need $2.5 million in assets to spend 4% a year. Does this make sense? So you remember that commercial? They had like a green line and people walking around with this number over their head and it's like, oh, 2 million, 6 million, 1.5. Anybody remember that? That was their number, right? That they needed to know so that they could regulate what their spending is. So you can reverse engineer it. If you spend $200,000 a year, what's 200 times 25? You need 5 million in assets before you know you can maintain that $200,000 lifestyle. Okay. Now I'll tell you a third way you could do it, because there was a guy in my office that's like, oh, I just need $15 million. And I'm like, well, why 15 million? He couldn't tell me why. And I'm like, think about it this way. Maybe you should think about mortgage debt. Why don't you buy an investment property with $400,000 in mortgage debt every year? If you do that for 10 years, you'd have what? $4 million in assets, not even counting the appreciation. What's 4 times 4%? 4 million times 4%? Hello? Hello? 160,000? He can spend $160,000 a year. Does this make sense? Our job was what? To try to create a plan for us, right? So could you help engineer your own plan? Does anybody not understand what I'm sharing here? Don't be shy. I'm going to do that on your face, Carl. Okay, let's see here. So this is just a refresher. This is how we did this rule of 72. We took 72 divided by this 6.53. That gave us 11 something years. That means if we had $1 million property right now, in 11 years, it would be 2 million. So let's think about it this way. I'm 46. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 46. Let's say I'm worth $5 million today. And I know I just did the rule. It's going to take 11 to 17 years or 11 to 18 years for it to double. So if I'm 46 and it takes how long to double? Why don't we just take the median average between 11 and 18, which is what? So like 15? We'll say 15 years. So I'm going to be what? 61? Then I'd be worth 10 million. If we keep going, it's 61, another 15 years at 76, I'd be worth how much? 20. So if I had 20 million, how much could I live on annually and not burn my principal? So you take 20 million, times it by what? 4%. Which is that? $800,000 a year. Does this make sense how we kind of create a plan? And that's with me not doing anything next year or next month. That's if I just let it ride, right? Who feels comfortable they can start to make a plan for themselves? Go ahead.
All in real estate, you're not really living off of cash that you're getting from your real estate. So you have to cash out that real estate, losing your taxes on it to be able to use that money. So how does that last you through all of retirement if you really have no access to it unless you're gonna cash it out?
What was your name? Sheila. No, I'm not. Well, I knew Susie could take it. Sheila, I know you're a little bit more delicate. We're going to be careful here with Sheila. Okay, so is there any fodder to what Sheila's saying? There could be. Let me tell you my perspective. Does anybody want to jump in? Tucker B?
Of that equity that you have per year. And since that also includes what you make off of it, say you have 5 years profit, 4 of them, and all the 5 years profit bring out that 5 million out of us. But each one is also like 4 of them is rent, so you don't use money that you get from the equity itself that you get from rent. That was the thing.
So a couple things happen with real estate, and nowhere have we said, hey, the only thing you should buy is real estate, right? I do believe in diversification, which is maybe a different conversation for a different day. But what happens with real estate? Just like your own mortgage, the rent comes in and my rule is I'm not buying real estate if it doesn't cash flow, right? There's principal reduction. There's interest payment being made. Do rents go up? Look at this chart right here. This is per month where rents went up over COVID and bounced back. Did rents go up? Do rents go up just like interest rates? Do rents go up and does principal get paid down? Do you eventually own the real estate free and clear? Can you trade into a better cash flowing investment with tax advantages, right? Do you get to depreciate so that you get to keep more of your earned income in your pocket. Dude, I cannot believe how good realtors have it because you're a real estate professional and so you can take accelerated depreciation for cost sakes. It is the best thing going. Do you know how many people want to get licensed exclusively just for that? So, dude, there's a lot of ways to do it. I'm not going to, well, there reaches a point where you stop acquiring new assets and you start to pay off what you've got, right? I'm not going to tell you when that is. I'm not ready to be there because I still want to grow. I've still got more potential, so I'm willing to take that out.
Say I'm like 50 years old.
It's independent. Let me tell you this. So 3 years ago, we go to Sunday dinner. My mom's like, I'm paying this 15-year mortgage off on my house, and this is a high payment. And I was like, why do you want to do that? She's like, well, I'm told not to have debt. I'm like, okay. Well, are you open to some new ideas? She said, yeah. How much would your payment be if you went to a 30-year mortgage? I just pulled out my phone, did a calculation. What happens if you save $1,500 a month off your payment and you put that towards another investment? What happens if you bought that rental and in 10 years it went up in appreciation, you sold that rental and paid off your house? Would you get there faster? We did the math, it worked. And she was 62 at the time or whatever. So what you're comfortable with, it's what your plan is, and if you can formulate it to make sense to you. Though, for the exact same reason why I don't pay extra principal on my mortgages is because I know I can get a higher return than the 4% mortgage I've got. If I cannot achieve greater than a 4% return on my money, then I'll pay down debt. But if I can get 7 or 8 or 12 or 15%, I'm going to go do that. Does this make sense? To answer your question, Sheila, it's going to take time, right? This is a get rich slow process. I think Shoney's about done with me. Real quick, let me ask you this. Just maybe this is our last slide. So these are some attitudes of today. See if you agree with any of these. Everything costs too much. I mean, geez, when I take my family out to dinner, it's like, and I don't know how to eat under $100, right? Unless you're eating fast food and you just feel like garbage, right? One out of 4 homes leaves the market unsold. That's crazy, right? 80% of all the rentals are held by mom and pop owners that don't even keep their financials, right? Just money in, money out. They don't even know. Rates are high, right? Rents have started to decrease, right? I think they're stabilizing now, but budgeting is hard, right? Affordability, it's in the toilet, right? Forget about inflation. Just average things are not affordable. To be average in this industry, you only have to do 4 sides a year. Who's average? Who's above average? I mean, seriously. Utilities, taxes, all my insurances, policies on my properties have all gone up. These almost like doubled. Everything's crazy. This doesn't sound very good, does it? Now let's go through some positives of each one of these. Does anybody want to share any? Everything costs too much. Maybe prices are coming down, right? Maybe you should sell something. Maybe you've got a 3rd car. You don't want it. You don't need it. Could you budget up, right? I think financing is going to get better on cars. That's why me and my wife are waiting, right? I think we'll get a better deal and not have to pay as much, and we don't need it, right? It's not a huge priority for us. One out of 4 homes leaves the market unsold. Could you not go after expired listings? Could you hone in your skills there and then become a little bit better than average? Rates are up. Maybe you should get better at seller financing, right? Can you educate your clients? Can you figure out how to do that and do a deal where you have to put less than 25 or 30% down and make it a cash flowing investment, right? Rents decreased since 22. Maybe you can offer less than prices have come down a little bit on some of these assets. Their pro forma interest rates, their vacancy, all those things have made it a better bargaining position for you to buy. Affordability is down. What does that mean? Maybe you're going to spend some more time cooking at home with your family and forging different relationships that way, right? 4 sites per agent. I mean, you should be able to do that per quarter, right? I feel like, and that feels like average to me, right? I don't know. Dude, more people are retiring and hitting 65. People need to downsize. Maybe you need to get better at working with seniors, right? There's a positive to any one of those things. If you own an investment property and you're not ready to sell it, what does that mean? That you would buy that deal today. So you need to think about when you're trying to consider trading up or trading into a better cash flowing investment, what you would do. Because if you're going to be indecisive and not know what to do, that means you would buy that deal today. So there are times to do that. You just need to generate the skills so that you can, sorry, I'm over on time, so that you can create the value you need. So that's about it for me.